book, or he actually studied relativity, professional level, it doesn't matter. But let's go back to the footnote. So views of personality papers on the idealistic. Okay. Wildon Carr's doctrine of monadistic idealism, however, is to be found much more fully and expounded in the general principle of relativity and theory of monads, outlines of the philosophy and the principles of relativity. Passages from both of these books have been quoted in present lecture. Probably we haven't. So 16, probably we already covered that quotation, but there's another quotation coming, which we haven't read yet. Okay. So Nunn, the best known as an educationist, wrote little philosophy, but whatever little he wrote, it made him quite influential with leading contemporary British philosophers, Whitehead, Russell, Broad. I don't know, Samuel Alexander, doesn't ring a bell. He is said to have first formulated a characteristic doctrine of neorealism, an important philosophical school of the century, which had its zealots and able companions both in England, or champions both in England and the United States. His famous symposium paper, Secondary Qualities Independent of Perception, read in a meeting of the Aristotelian Society in 1909, was widely studied and discussed. And as J. Passmore struck Bertrand Russell's roving fancy. The book I read, 100 Year Philosophy, long time ago, when I was in secondary school, I think. And Passmore, I think, is an Australian philosopher. Is much probably he might even be alive still. Okay, so he is an Australian philosopher. He died in 2004. He was born in 1914, so lived almost 90 years or so. Passmore was born in Sydney and died in Canberra. Anyway, I don't remember reading any of the other books, but if he was a historian of ideas, and his scholarship always paid attention to complex historical context of philosophical problems. His other book is philosopher Frank Jackson notes that Passmore shaped public debate and opened up philosophy and history of ideas to the wider world. I remember reading this book, 100 Years of Philosophy, as I said, but there's another book called Man's Responsibility of Nature, and there might be other books as well. Okay, so Passmore, so it is significant to note that Nunn's correction put on Wildon Carr's idealistic interpretation of relativity in the present passages to be found almost in the same philosophical diction in Russell's valuable article, Relativity, Philosophical Consequences, published in Encyclopedia Britannica. It is a mistake to support that relativity adopts an idealistic picture of the world, obviously. The observer who is often mentioned in the exposition of relativity need not to be in mind, but maybe a photograph. Yeah, but more than that, even if there is observer, it doesn't mean that, if you are talking about Berkeleyan idealism, and it seems to me that's what it is meaningful in this context, then just being relative to observer doesn't mean that the thing exists in observer's mind.